Chapter 19, Part 2, 1:15 p.m. It would appear that Ernie sailed on the Queen Mary cruise liner with the Cunard Company. The Cunard line was the last of the ocean liners. Passenger services were no longer viable after 1968 with the advent of transatlantic air travel. This seemed to trigger a change of emphasis for the ship companies. Cruises, holidays at sea, they were to be the focus from that point on. They were very adaptable and progressive, it seems. I take my hat off to them. Maybe my mum would enjoy a cruise. I might even go with her. I'll float the idea later, pardon the pun. The website describes the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth as superliners and the ultimate expression of Art Deco at sea. For first-class passengers, they offered everything from a library to a soda fountain. I wonder which class Ernie travelled on. I'm guessing he would have been more comfortable with those in economy, even if he could afford the high life. According to the ship's profile, the Queen Mary could accommodate nearly 2,000 passengers, with 700 places reserved for the first class. It goes to show, even with the economic hardship after World War II, there were still enough wealthy individuals about to justify giving over a third of the passenger spaces to those who could afford a bit extra. Mum's replied, "Fantastic. Tonight at 6:30 p.m. would be fine. She can't wait to see me, and would I like chicken and chips?" Good old Mummy. Yes, please. I'll have to remember to unpack that fridge magnet and that little King Kong. 2 p.m. It would appear that all passenger lists for ships coming into the UK before 1960 are now kept at the National Archives in Kew, southwest London, but records after that are kept at the Cunard Line headquarters on Regent Street. Hopefully that will negate a trip to Southampton, if all the records are kept there. It seems that you can either pay for the search to be done on your behalf or conduct one for yourself. As a private investigator of some note, I could hardly justify getting someone to look on my behalf. What if they miss something? No, this is a job for me, and me alone. And I can have a few nights in London. The call to the National Archives and Cunard Line headquarters just confirmed what I already knew. The more details I have, the more information I'm likely to find, and it will speed up the process. So the basic information needed: 1. Date of departure or arrival, passenger name and age. 2. Extra information that might help: ticket class or number, ongoing address, and travelling companions. I'm okay on the first set, but I'm lacking a bit on the second. The lady on the other end of the phone said the extra information were likely requirements before travel, so that the customs office ran smoothly on arrival. If this is true, I'll be able to find Ernie's first address on re-entering the UK. From the first address, I should then be able to follow a trail, and if he is employed in that area, a combination of forwarding addresses and tax and national insurance payment records should help me find out about more of his movements from that point. From experience, it is a bit of a long, drawn-out paper exercise, but if it helps me find Ernie, it'll be worth it. I'll book a hotel later this evening before I go and see Mum. I also think I'll take the train to London. It's a nightmare to park in the centre now, and very expensive, what with the congestion charge and everything. 5 p.m. Train and hotel booked. 4 nights at the St George's Inn, Victoria, for £230 and a return train journey for £115. All in for less than £450. Some folk would consider that a bargain, but to me that's ridiculously expensive for just 4 nights away in my own country. Still, it can go on my list of expenses, so I shouldn't really moan. I get into Euston Station just before midday tomorrow. I'll check in and go straight over to the Cunard offices. I should be done and dusted by tea time. And speaking of tea, I better go and get changed and ready for tea with Mum. Update you later. 10:30 p.m. Great catch up again. I'm really pleased Mum and I are getting on so well. She was delighted with her presents, or at least she pretended to be. Those were the kind of gifts a son gives his mum after a school trip. Oh, the chicken and chips at the spot too, as good as anything I'd had in the States, well, took us aside. I offered to return the favour next week and cook for Mum and my sister when I get back from London. What was I thinking? I have no culinary skills. I'm sure they'll be happy with a meal deal from the supermarket or a takeaway. It's the company that counts, isn't it? Right, bedtime for me. Another early start and a trip to our capital. If I can find out a bit about Ernie tomorrow, I can get a couple of touristy days in too. I've been meaning to get to a few museums and the odd show for a while. I could kill two birds with one stone, all being well. Night night, Mr. Diary. The 9th of the 3rd, 2019, 11:30 a.m. I'm pleased I got allocated a ticket in the quiet coach on the train. It wasn't intentional. I must have missed that during the booking process, but it was welcome. No screaming children or inane mobile phone conversations to listen to. Knitting and crosswords I can cope with. Plenty of thinking time. We've just trundled through Milton Keynes Central, so we're on time and should get to Euston just after 12. I can take the tube straight to Victoria and check in before heading to Regent Street. They told me I didn't need an appointment, as it was all quite straightforward and everything is computerised. Ah, there's the famous Wembley Arch. Nearly there. 12:30 p.m. No problems on the tube. It seemed a lot cleaner than it did on my last visit a few years ago. The ticket prices have shot up though. It's a great place for a visit, but you just seem to hemorrhage money from the moment you arrive to the moment you leave. The hotel is decent enough. Basic, but clean. It's a bit of a hike to Regent Street from here, but I've got time on my hands. The walk won't do me any harm. I will head along the Thames to Westminster and head up Whitehall to Trafalgar Square. It's only another half mile or so from there. It'll be tea time by the time I pick up what I need from Cunard. There are plenty of places to eat round there. I quite fancy an Italian. I can eat whilst deciding what to do next. 4:15 p.m. What the hell? What the hell? I've certainly lost my appetite now. What on earth am I missing? I should have known not to take anything for granted with this bloody case. There must be a fault on the system. There must be. I've double, even triple checked the times and the dates. He was meant to be on that ship. It's the only ship that left New York for Southampton that month. It didn't stop anywhere else on the way. Did I just dream that conversation in Ernie's bar with Patrick and Harry and the others? Did I fall for some elaborate fairy story? Were they rolling around laughing once I'd left? I feel a right mug now. I've just written Mr. Green with all that information. Have I been sent on a wild goose chase for no reason? What am I going to tell him? Ernie Grimshaw was not on that ship. For the record, I arrived at the headquarters at 2:45 p.m. I explained my situation and name-dropped the person I spoke to on the phone. Kelly Wrightson, she was called. They came to meet me at the front entrance and took me into a side room. She fired up the computer and I shared what information I had with her. Date, 15th of March 1965. Queen Mary Ocean Liner, New York to Southampton. All okay so far? Yes, the Queen Mary left New York on time and on that date. Yes, the very same ship arrived in Southampton on time. 1,716 passengers boarded that day. 572 in first class, the rest on tourist or economy tickets. She was even able to break it down further than that. 536 adults, females, 632 adult males, 548 minors under the age of 18. 701 of those on board were aged between 18 and 45. 396 of that 701 were men. And out of the 396, 216 were registered as white, 120 as black or Afro-Caribbean, and 52 other. At this point I was feeling very confident and enthusiastic. I'd managed to narrow it down to 216. And even if Ernie had developed a bloody good suntan, he was still in a crowd of less than 400. Even if he'd had a sex change, he must have been among 1,200 adults. But no record of him. No Ernie Grimshaw on this ship. I thought back to my time on Ellis Island. A spelling mistake, surely, a common mistake. Patiently, Kelly checked for me again. She assured me that the records were very well kept, and it was unlikely that the search would have missed either of his first name or his surname. No Ernies, no Grimshaws. What if both names had been spelt incorrectly? I asked her out of desperation. She said I could use the search facility to scan through the names if I wanted to. I was happy to do that. She said she would even nip for a coffee and leave me to it for 10 minutes. But when she returned, I was no further forward. Ernie Grimshaw was not on that ship. She could tell I was devastated and kindly offered me a drink, but I declined. I was in a daze. I'm still in a daze. I thanked her for her time and her help, and here I am again, Mr. Diary, back to square one. Where is Ernie Grimshaw? Who is Ernie Grimshaw? And where the hell do I go from here?